Hey guys, as you can see, I am looking scruffy. I'm looking like a mess. I need to shave this thing off. So yes, again, I'm quite busy today, but I've got some time this week to do some videos. Today I'm going into Glasgow to buy some running trainers. Hopefully I can do a little bit of running this week. I'm hoping I can. I'll do a separate video about that. But what I want to do in this video is talk about buying old cars versus buying new cars and just kind of touch upon leasing, etc. As you can see here, I'm sitting in a new car. If you've seen it in my other videos, you've probably noticed that this is a different car. This is my new car, but it's an old car-ish. So this car's a 65 registration in the UK. So it's about 3.5 years old. So for some people that's old. For me, it is super new. Over the last 10 years, I have been buying mostly old cars. So what I've got here is a BMW 5 Series. It's a 520D, and I got one that's got lots of extras, like, I'm not sure if you can see this here, but it's got like the larger navigation menu, and it's got the beige leather. It's got like 4 grand of extras. So 3.5 years ago, this was like a 40 grand car, so it's kind of crazy. But in the past, I have predominantly bought old cars, really old cars, like cars that were normally 10 or 11 years old. And to be honest, at the start I wasn't really thinking about ever buying a new car, but this is something that I think that a lot of people think about. Like, should you buy an old car? Should you buy a nearly new car, which is maybe what this is? Should you buy a car brand new? Should you lease? Now, personally, I'm of the opinion that I would never buy a car brand new from the website, etc., because of the depreciation. It's insane. The depreciation is insane, as far as, you know, there's some cars that a year later, they're 15 grand, but when you buy them brand new, they're like 22. So you're losing a huge amount of money. So I don't think I would ever buy a car brand new with 0 miles. One of the reasons I always went with old cars is because I work on the internet. I work from home. My gym is like a 5-10 minute drive, but it's only like a 20-minute walk, 25-minute walk. So in the times when I had an old car and I had to get springs fixed, or I had to get, you know, brake pads put on or whatever, you know, I know that's wear and tear for any car, but whenever my car was in the garage, it really wasn't a big inconvenience in my life. I walked down to the gym for a few days. I walked up to the shop for some shopping. It really was not a big inconvenience in my life, not really. So I always found it hard to justify going out and spending a ton of money on a car, because if I broke down, it was probably going to be local, and if I didn't have the car for a few days, it's not like I couldn't get to my job. I work from home. So that was one reason why I was kind of buying older cars. Now, if you do buy older cars, there are obviously risks, and you can be unlucky, but I've been quite lucky, I would say, over the last few years. If I go back 6 or 7 years ago, I had a BMW 3 Series. Now, this was a petrol car. It was automatic, but it was petrol, and the miles per gallon were awful. Absolutely awful. It was like reportedly 36 miles per gallon. I was getting like 23, 24, and I was doing a lot of miles at the time, so I had to sell it even though I loved the car. Now, the thing about that car, though, is I bought that for like £2,650, and I sold it 2 years later for £1,800. So from a car valuation point of view, I lost next to nothing. You know, I lost less than £1,000 over 2 years. So in that respect, for a car that was very reliable, for a car that drove really well, that was a great purchase. And it shows you that there are bargains out there, and you can drive a car very cheaply if you want. After that, I got a Volvo C30. Now, I had a couple of little things wrong with it. Excuse me, I don't know what's happening in my voice. The Volvo C30 that I bought, it was kind of like, I guess you could kind of look at it like a cheap Sirocco. It was 2 seats in the front, 2 in the back. Quite a sporty little car, quite fast. It was 2 doors, so, you know, no one could get in the back seat. They had to flip the front seats down. It was a coupe. But it was a good little car. Again, I bought that for about 2,800, and 2 years later I sold it to my friend for 800. So I lost 2 grand on that in about a year and a half, but I didn't lose a lot of money. I traded that one in last August, and this is when I was thinking about maybe buying something a little bit newer. Now, when I bought the Audi A6, I was looking at Audi A4s, I was looking at BMW 5s, I was looking at cars, you know, from anything from like 2 grand, 3 grand, up to 10 grand. Really, that was kind of my range. But at the time I decided to go for this big Audi A6, this big huge car. And you actually find you get used to driving a big car, but it was a great car. It did have sat-nav per se. It's sat-nav, but it was like text, basically. It was really bad, and all the maps were out of date. But I bought the Audi A6, but it was like a month or two afterwards. It had an engine warning light that was coming on, and whenever I moved the wheel, I was moving the steering wheel, and it was coming out all these really weird noises from the wheel shaft. It was making all these kind of creaking noises, and yeah, it just wasn't good. And I had always planned to trade it in, to sell it before the MOT. I wanted to, you know, keep it for less than a year and trade it in. But I was conscious of the fact that I could get the value knocked down and all that. And, you know, in hindsight, I probably made a mistake, because when I was buying that Audi A6, I was thinking, okay, I could buy a new car or a new-ish car, but what I'm going to do is buy something cheaper, save up for a year, and then get something a little bit better. But when I was checking Auto Trader recently, I noticed that the valuation of that car was a lot lower. And I traded that in after 6-7 months and lost $2,000 or so. And that's when the penny dropped. Because when I saw that the valuation of that car, I was like, yeah, I've messed up here, because it does have a couple of problems. If I did put it through the MOT, I was going to have to spend a lot of money. And yeah, I was conscious of the fact of how much it depreciated, because if I was driving around with a big car, an old car, and it's going to depreciate $2,000 or more than $2,000, at that point, you're as well buying something newer. You really are, because depreciation is one of the biggest costs with cars. Certainly newer cars, not older cars, but depreciation is one of the biggest costs of a car. And I've seen lots of articles about this. I've read lots of articles about how, you can buy cars that are 11 grand, 12 grand in a year, they're worth only 6. It's the biggest hidden cost, and it's the cost that, no car salesman will ever tell you about. So, in hindsight, the Audi A6, whilst it was a good car, it was the wrong car to buy at the time. I really should have went for something newer. And now I've traded it in for a BMW 520. As I said, it's a 65 reg, and after owning cars that are 11, 12 years old on average, I've got a car that's 3.5 years old, and it's still old to some people. It's out of warranty, but this thing is amazing, and it's I'm kind of concerned now that I'll never go back to owning an old car, because this thing is so much fun to drive. It's so much more economical. It's £20 road tax. It's fast. It's got like a sport mode that's really, really nippy. It's automatic, so I'm not messing about with gears anymore. It's got a huge navigation system that's up to date and all that. And yeah, generally it's just more fun to drive. It's more practical. It's safer. And when I work out my yearly costs as far as buying this and then how much it depreciates over time, I'm not actually spending that much more than what I would have had with an older car. And with an older car, you've always got that risk of something going wrong. And that's really how I look at this now, because for a few years I was buying older cars. And if you are trying to buy cheap cars and just drive, buy older cars, you can save a huge amount of money. And I think most of the time, generally speaking, it is the way to go if you want to save money. The problem is that if you buy a dud, or if you buy a car that's got any kind of problems, you can run into a lot of unexpected costs, as far as repairs go. And your car can still depreciate a lot. And a lot of the time when you buy an old car, the car you buy is generally the car, you could be the last owner, effectively, or the second last owner, because if there are any repairs, it's going to the junkyard. No one else is buying it from you, because it costs more to repair than, the car's worth, really. So you're better putting that money to something else. Now, I did look at leasing. I did look at leasing as well, and leasing was something that I thought I'd look into. But I think because I don't do a huge amount of miles compared to some other people, leasing was maybe quite an attractive option. But in the end, I decided that I wanted to buy a car, because you can get 2-year leases, and I'm sure I would have been happy with a 2-year lease. But I like the idea of, if I like this car, keeping it for 5 years. If I don't like the car, I can trade it in after 6 months or a year. And I wouldn't have got that flexibility with a lease. I would have been tied to it to 2 years. leasing is definitely something I would consider in the future, though. It's not something I would ever rule out. And for many people, leasing is the better option. Like, you know, I was talking to my friend there. He's taking a new job down in England, and he was looking at buying some cars, but he was saying that in his situation, he wants a car that's reliable. He doesn't want to mess about with repairs or warranties or anything like that. He thinks leasing is the better option for him, and I would agree with him. So what this is all about really is that I'm not going to say I was wrong. I just think that sometimes, you know, in the past, I think that I looked at it that buying old cars was always the best way to go, because I didn't care about buying a new car. I really didn't. I didn't care if it wasn't the most reliable and there was the odd repair, because it didn't affect my life too much, not too much. But there was always some doubts in my mind, you know, like for example, if I'm doing a trip up north and I want to do a weekend away or something, you've always got that in the back of your mind that this car isn't going to be the most reliable for doing 500, 600 miles. You know, you've always got that in the back of your mind that something could go wrong. And yes, I do have like recovery and things like that, but you know, you still have to get recovered, you still have to get the car taken back home, and it's still a huge inconvenience. Now, I've spent more money, but I think that how much this depreciates will, you know, that's my yearly cost effectively. Hopefully I don't get any hidden surprises at the end of the year with the MOT, but I now have a car that's more reliable, it's faster, it's more fun, it's more comfortable, it's modern. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with it. So I'd love to do another video and I'll show you the car and I'll show you what it's all about and show you some of the toys in the middle. The iDrive system with BMW is really, really, really good. I was hoping to do that today, but I need to run into Glasgow. I'm buying new running trainers and you have to go on the machine and, you know, get all that sorted. So time is not my friend today, but maybe at the end of the week or something I can try and do a video showing you my car. But I'd love to hear from you guys about this. I'd love to hear what your thoughts on this are as far as buying a car. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, this is quite black and white. You should never lease, or you should never buy old, or you should never buy new. I don't think that is the case. I think it really is, you know, and like every situation, it really does depend on what your situation is. I could still justify buying an old car, and I think with Audi A6 I maybe just got a little bit unlucky with some of the problems it had. Still drove great right enough, but I think with it, you know, I was quite lucky with buying old cars, but you could also be very unlucky and buy a few cars that have got a lot of problems. But new cars have problems as well. There's never any guarantee with cars. Cars are always money pits. This is the thing. Cars are always expensive. They always take a lot of money to run. But I'd love to hear what you think about this. Do you lease? If so, why? Do you always buy new or nearly new? If so, why? And if you're like me and, you know, did what I did for the last few years and always bought old, I'd love to know why as well. I'm certainly not going to criticise anyone for doing, you know, either. I've got friends that still drive older cars. You know, a different situation if that Audi A6 was running well. I probably would have kept buying older cars maybe for a while longer. But I've got a newer car. It's not new, and I must admit I'm very happy, and I feel like I don't feel like I've ruined my, you know, I've made a bad decision and threw my money away or anything like that. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about it. I'd love to know how you buy your car, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Cheers.